Um, I am honestly still in a bit of shock that this is actually happening right now, that all of you are here and that hundreds of people around the country and world are participating in this project, which we launched not even a month ago. It is truly humbling. I am beyond thrilled to welcome you all to our very first ever workshop week with the Level Up Project and supporting our vision of accessible education, knowledge sharing, and network building. All of us at the project have an innate sense that the industries we work within need to change and that we are individually responsible for helping that shift along. It is through both small and daily habit changes alongside collective action that we think systems can be created to support more people. And right now, you all are part of that creating. Oh, hello. An idea that I have been returning to a lot in the last few months, articulated by activist and abolitionist Mariame Kaba, is that we don't have to build things that last forever. We shouldn't need a project like this to exist in the first place because free and accessible education and knowledge sharing should be baseline. I started this project as just one of many resources and stepping blocks on the way to greater equity in the predominantly physical skills-based fields of craft and design. It already feels like this project is growing and shifting to better serve everyone who would like to participate. And it is a dream to be part of this collective building project with you all. Katie, hello. This model works, that is allowing anyone who wants to participate for free, including materials, because we are collecting all the dollars into one pot and then redistributing them back out. We believe that everyone contributing in accordance with their wealth and privilege is one way to achieve a more equitable social system. And it's been super exciting to watch this happen in real time as you all are making it happen. We can build a framework, but if you are not here to participate, then it doesn't work. So thank you for being here. As a reminder, all of our proceeds from ticket sales and donations through the website are going to Arts Business Collaborative and Map for Youth, which is a mutual aid project. And if you feel strongly about our work, we invite you to donate through the website. I'm going to be the admin for this workshop. Please feel free to drop me any questions in the chat box or DM me separately if you don't want your question going to the whole group. I will be turning, oh no, I will have my video on but the sound off, and we'll just be collecting your questions or chiming in real time if it seems pertinent to the discussion. And if not, we'll pause at around like 15, 20 minutes to the end, and Nabila will have time to specifically answer all of your questions. Nabila is going to ask for your participation during the workshop. So again, please feel free to leave your videos on if you feel comfortable and have your mics muted unless Nabila is asking directly for verbal feedback, which she will be doing. So like, check out how to unmute yourselves if you don't know already. And in advance, I apologize for any technical glitches. This Zoom thing is very new to me. Don't hesitate to ping me if you see something not working. I will do my very best to troubleshoot that in real time. Also a reminder that this workshop is being recorded and will be hosted on our website. You will be receiving an email link to it next week sometime or the week after, and you'll be able to view Nabila's presentation again and again, which will be super helpful for everybody, I'm sure. And on that note, I would love to officially welcome Nabila Juma, who is a multi-hyphenate creative with 5 years of experience running in-house design and content teams for direct-to-consumer companies, specializing in brand identity and strategy, content creation, and art direction. Her work has been featured in the Zoe Report, Business Insider, Forbes, and Vogue. She holds a BFA from the Maryland Institute College of Art, woo, with a concentration in culture and politics. It brings me some special joy that Nabila has joined us for our inaugural workshop week with the Level Up Project. Her warmth and humility and graciousness translate directly from her personal life into her work. Not only is Bila leading this workshop, which I know I'm going to be learning a lot from as a small business owner, never having been trained in any of these hard skills that I use on the daily, but Nabila has also been working on the back end of this project, both in organization and as a sounding board for me personally. And I am totally thrilled that all of you get to learn with her today. And on that note, I would love to turn over the virtual floor to Nabila Juma.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Wow, that is like a very hard intro to live up to. I hope I do it justice. I thank you all so much for being here. It is, echoing Allison, truly, truly humbling that all of you were so generous, not only in your ticket purchase, but for being here. That is, I'm kind of emotional right now. So, okay, on to lighter things. I'm so excited. This is the first time that I'm kind of putting into words sort of a collection of the things that I've learned over the years in my sort of the kind of intersection of content, marketing, design, and how they all come together. A little bit background about myself. I have kind of done a little bit of everything. I used to do chalkboards for newborn babies and weddings. I did an internship with a fashion designer. I taught after school care. I worked in a cell phone store selling cell phone accessories, just trying to kind of sort of make ends meet and not really knowing where I wanted to go. I started getting interested in food when I went vegan a few years ago, and through that I went back to school, did like a nutrition course, a chef's course, and started a food blog that I had to take photography for, and kind of learned along the way how to like put a website together, how to take pictures, how to then like put it out into the world, what hashtags should I use. And that was all sort of like, you know, on my personal time. Through that, I got some volunteering opportunities where I got to teach some workshops on how to eat healthy. And from there, still needed some stable income. So I found a job with a vegan beauty retailer called Petit Boar, and I was there for almost 4 years as their sort of photographer, graphic designer, content creator. So I started from the very bottom of like, here's how you hold the camera, here's how you point and shoot, to like running my own photo shoots, bringing in photographers, bringing in other creatives to collaborate with. And I left that company about a year ago, and I'm now at Hero Cosmetics, where I do most of the art direction and brand designing. So my day involves a lot of strategy and long-term big picture thinking, but also I'm doing the groundwork of like, okay, this pamphlet needs to go out. I got to graphic design it. Which image is going to go in there? How are we going to crop it? What's the messaging? What's the copy? And kind of putting it all together. So all that to say, you can come from crazy different backgrounds with skills that you feel are completely unrelated, and it will still put you on a path where you can create solutions to problems that nobody else can, which I think is so important to recognize and to believe in, because I think as makers, we come from so many different touch points, and it all sort of comes together and informs how you create in the world. So yeah, so that's about me. Let's get into it. The primary mode of this workshop is going to be slightly different than the other ones. It's less of like interactive doing things with your hands, and more of a presentation. So it's get ready to be back in college at a lecture. I hope I don't bore you to death. I'm going to share my screen now. This presentation will be available to you afterwards. I'm going to add additional notes from any questions that come up today. Any questions so far as I get into it? Good. Okay. I'm gonna go back, pull up my notes. Okay, so this workshop is going to be focused on visual storytelling, what it is, how it works, best practices, and sort of thinking about the frameworks that help inform how you should be thinking about the storytelling that you do as an individual maker or creator. So it's basically taking what I've learned being in a larger company, how brands or retailers sort of think about visual storytelling, and sort of using those frameworks for like the individual. So hopefully you can sort of craft your own. Here's a little background. On the left is the things that I used to shoot. So food photography and some product photography for small scale brands. And on the right is sort of what I'm doing today. This is for my current company. This is the art direction that I'm doing today. Just to show you a little bit of my background and growth. Okay, let's get into it. One of these is a booba, and one of these is a kiki. Okay, so I want you to unmute yourself and tell me, is the left one a kiki or is the right one a kiki? This is all the information you get, and you have to guess.
The right one is the booba.
The right is the booba. Okay. And anybody else disagree?
I think the right one is a kiki.
Right one is kiki. Okay. So this is an experiment that was done in 1929 and redone in 2001. It's called the Booba Kiki effect. What it is people from all different language backgrounds were shown these two shapes and just asked a simple question: which one is the kiki and which one is the booba? And over 95% of the people assigned the left as the kiki and the right as the booba. And this is just simply based on the way that the sounds and the shapes align. So what that means is that in all of humanity, there is a sort of consistency in how we think about and how our brain sort of attaches meaning to shapes and sounds in a very consistent way. So it's okay if you thought of something different, that is totally fine. But it's just really interesting that our brains are built to recognize these sort of visual elements and assign them meaning. So today, in today's world, if you like, digital and visual literacy is such a prime skill, right? We're getting increasingly connected. Things are increasingly visual with not just the internet, but with social media. And even more so, design tools that were inaccessible a few years ago, say Adobe Suite, all these different tools that you need to learn within them, are now super accessible to the masses, right? You have programs like Canva, easy video editors, TikTok, right? That allow you a greater access. Moreover, the percent of information that you retain after 3 days in multiple experiments is 65% with a relevant image and 10% without an image. So the importance of attaching visuals to whatever content you are wanting to push is absolutely paramount in terms of making sure people are remembering, recognizing, and coming back to you. Sorry, lost my notes. 1 sec. Okay. The other thing is that's happening in the world today is that curating is happening at lightning speed, right? People are putting things together in systems. So it's not just one piece of artwork or one product or one blog post that you sort of repeat. It has to be different. It has to resonate with your customer, and it all sort of has to work together in a very similar system or framework. So, you know, whether it's emojis or it's a series of products that you're launching, they all have to have a common thread, a common background that ties them together in this system. And I apologize if this is kind of jumping back and forth, but I promise it'll all come together in the end. Okay, so when we're starting off as an individual, a creator, or small business, I think what happens first is we let our intuition guide us, which is great, and it's the perfect jumping off point. You, as a maker, may be like, you know, I'm making this this knitted item, or this jam or jelly, or whatever product that it is, and I think it's cool, and I want to see if anyone else thinks it's cool. So I'm going to put it out there and just see what happens. Same thing happens with a service or a small business. I've experienced this problem, and I want to put it out into the world and see if there's a demand for the solution that I came up with. This is what is called like assessing demand in the market. And very quickly you get to tell, like, okay, this works for me, this doesn't, this is what people want. And you can tell that through very basic metrics, right? Like, okay, I'm getting likes on this, I'm getting comments. If you're lucky, it's converting into purchases. But from there, it's not always clear, how do we level up, right? How do I take what I'm making to the next level? How do I generate new leads and create awareness of what I'm doing or offering? How do I make sure interested people convert into purchases? How do I make sure they purchase again after they already did that one time? And how do I create a system that is then stable enough for me to have like consistent income, right? I think the thing with, as we're talking about being makers and visual artists of all kinds, is that part of the issue is we don't have background in marketing and in business, and how to convert what we're doing and making and you know, this visual language that we've learned into profit. And so I'm hoping that some of the tools that you see today are going to help you sort of set your own goals and get to that point through sort of these case studies of kind of what's working and what's not working. Okay, so when you're asking those questions, what you're doing is you're asking, how do I draw people down the funnel? What is the funnel? The funnel is the marketing funnel, and it's what most businesses practice in terms of, sorry, I'm just gonna move people's faces. Okay, I can see better. This is kind of the reference point or the framework through which we do all of our marketing as a brand. So the top of the funnel is, okay, I want to create awareness. I'm going to write multiple blog posts. I'm going to use social media to get my product out there. I'm going to work with PR. I'm going to create tools that create accessibility. And from there, you generate interest, right? First, people have heard of you. Now they're interested. And so then they come investigating, right? They come to your homepage, they're checking out your product page, they want to know more information about your background and your process. Maybe they subscribe to your newsletter where you can keep them regularly updated. And then they're evaluating, right? They're saying, is this product really what I want? Is this where I want to go? Is this something I need? Is this service something I need? And that's where you come up with a comparison guide or webinars or videos of like how this works, what it's used for, etc. And then if you are successful, you get them to purchase, right? You've got reviews that say this product was awesome, and convince them to check out, right? That is the top of the funnel, what we call acquiring. So you've acquired a customer, they've made a purchase, fantastic. And then it's up to you to deliver on the customer's expectation, right? Okay, this product worked the way that I wanted it to. It looks beautiful in my living room, whatever the case may be, right? Beyond that, the post-purchase is, how do you retain this customer, right? So you want to be able to retain them and have them come back for more. So they have to, your product has to meet that expectation. On top of that, how can you delight them? Maybe you send them a confirmation email that gives them more information about the product that they just purchased. Maybe you have an onboarding program. Maybe you've created loyalty. Hey, you just purchased this and now you get 20% back on your next purchase, right? You're creating newsletters to give them more education about the product that you're selling. And then advocacy, right? So this one's the most interesting to me because you're basically turning your fan into doing the work for you. So referring a friend, right? Hey, I love this brand. I bought this incredible vase from them. It looks great in my living room. I think you should get one too. Here's a 10% off code that I'm sharing with you from the company. So I think all of these, if you do them well, they're going to become a feedback loop, right? So you've acquired the customer, you retain them, they're going to help you acquire more customers and so on and so forth. And that's how you sort of expand. And I think that a lot of brands think about it this way, but I think it's so helpful that as an individual maker that you think about it this way too. In my mind, it's, you know, sharing this framework is so paramount. Not only, here's the close-up. Sorry, I should have gone there first. I think it's really important to look at this because in another way, it's like setting yourself goals, right? So if you're wanting to expand, you're probably like, I know I was, how do I expand? What am I expanding to? Where am I going? How do I get more people to like this, to buy this? This, I think, helps you set goals. Okay, asking myself, what do I do to generate loyalty? Can I turn purchasers into fans that can advocate for me? What new platforms can I get into and how do I test that? These are all questions that you can ask based off of this as like your jumping off framework, right? So I know that this feels like it's coming from left field, but when you're thinking about what purpose that the visual stories you generate serve, this is the jumping off point, right? So use this as your reference, I think. From my background, this is how you leverage knowledge beyond intuition, right? Okay, so here's the objective, right? We're gonna create or share the frameworks like this one to create our own frameworks. Sorry, that was not eloquent. Basically using what brands do and applying it to ourselves, right? Okay, so let's get into it. What is visual storytelling? It's the narrative told primarily through visual media. So photos, videos, illustrations, graphics. In other words, it's what can you say without words, right? I'm gonna play a cute little video and I wanna hear your impressions after. Oh, hold on.
Nabila, is this supposed to have sound?
Damn, can you not hear the sounds?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, I don't know how to troubleshoot that. But if you have your phone handy, you should totally look this up right now. Just do it. It's called the Hershey Kisses Holidays commercial, okay? And as you're looking it up, actually, I'll give you 1 minute. Look it up.
Nabila, can you drop a link into the chat box? Do you have that handy?
Oh yeah, I can totally do that. No, stop playing.
I remember this commercial from childhood. Like I because I remember it so soundly, like just playing in the background. It's incredible.
Yes. So this commercial is actually one of the damn near perfect examples of visual storytelling that I can think of. It is one of the longest running unretouched commercials. It first aired in 1989, so it's been running for about 30 years. And I want to talk a little bit about what is so great about it. You can unmute yourselves and tell me why you think this is a good example of visual storytelling.
The music is very identifiable, and the images, we all know what they are, but they take on like an animation as if they're little people, but you still know they're chocolate and you want to eat them.
Yep, great. What else?
I would say that the at the end, when the chocolate wipes its brow from being nervous about their performance, I feel like that is a really humanizing moment that brings forward the entire narrative around the holidays and makes it really like attainable, and like maybe you might want this chocolate as a reward for having gotten through the holidays. So it's not just a reference to a moment, it's connecting to a more human experience or desire around that moment.
Absolutely. What else? Let's get an answer.
The kisses look like bells to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it looks like the sound that it's making, and they look like carolers. So it refers back to Christmas, and and then the way that they're shaped together looks like a Christmas tree, and also looks like Christmas decorations, and it also is the Christmas colors. So then you also think like it's a good little present for people. And
absolutely. So you all touched.
It's very sorry. I think it's very approachable, right?
Yes.
Like everyone gets it. It's relatable, memorable, but it's also not really. It's emphasizing the holiday, so it's like a really gentle way to kind of for the brand to connect with the consumer without saying, "Buy my product."
Yes, exactly. I think you all touched on all of the different points, right? It's using a multitude of visual cues, right? From the movement that lifts up like a bell to the sweat on the brow, right? Those are things that are, in one way you're referring to a bell, which is an inanimate object, but then you're also referring to like the nervousness around the holidays or the stress around the holidays, right? And rewarding yourself with this treat, with that at the end. The shape of the Christmas tree, another visual cue. The colors, another visual cue. The sound, another cue, right? So you have a multitude of things working together, from the composition to the sound, without saying so much as a word, that makes you connect this product with the holidays in a way that's super symbiotic, right? So the idea is to show, not tell, right? What can you show in the visual without saying anything? So let's do another exercise. Here's a brand called Necessaire. I want you to throw out some words that you think describes this brand. Now there are words here, and that's okay. But what do you think are the words that this brand is evocative of?
Minimal.
Minimal. What else?
indulgence.
Indulgence. That's kind of funny, right? Because they could be oxymorons, but in this case, not so much.
Smoothness.
Smoothness. What else?
I think that there's a purity that they're trying to evoke through here. Materials.
What do you mean by purity?
Just because they're using transparency and they're using, like, they're trying to bring through texture. They're trying to sort of suggest that they don't have a lot of extra chemicals, that this is safe on the skin. There's a sort of, yeah.
Sure. Do you think that
Less
this brand
religious
is
purity? Sorry.
Sure. I got that. So do you think this brand is expensive?
Yes.
Yes.
Why do you think that?
There's a luxury feel.
What gives it that luxury feel?
Oh.
Less.
There's not a lot of color.
Mm-hmm. A limited palette. What else?
The type is pretty.
Type is pretty. Yes, it's small, right? Using a lot of negative space. What else?
It just makes your body look supple.
The images look almost sculptural, like they're pieces of art.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, absolutely. I don't actually know what the price point of this brand is, but that is definitely what they want you to think, right? That they're clean, that they're luxurious, that they're minimalist, that you want this in your shower, right? Let's try another one, completely different.
Millennial.
Millennial. What makes you say that?
Just the recesses just comes across as a very pop brand, and the color palette, as well as the use of 90s graphics, the sweatshirt. Yeah, there are a lot of cultural references.
Yeah, the flatness is like the millennial branding. That's the last couple of years, everything is 2D, you know?
Right.
But I can't tell what the product is. Is it soda or is it laundry detergent?
That's fair.
Yes.
And that is also, you know, something that have put out there. So are they doing a good job of marketing their product if you can't tell what the product actually is?
I don't think so.
No.
Right. So that's something to consider, right? How out of left field, how much do you lean into the memes before you're unrecognizable, right? Something to consider. Here's another one. This is a maker, a painter. Her name's Heather Day. What is this evocative of? What are some words you would use to describe?
Abstract?
Abstract, okay.
Wistful, playful.
Colorful.
I feel like it feels very like kind of youthful in a way, like something that just feels young and like carefree. Referencing like more like a childhood kind of, feels very playful.
Do you feel as a consumer that you have insight into her process?
Yes.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Why is that?
The bottom middle, where you see her at work in the studio.
And then the little sketchbook on the right looks like she's experimenting with colors from outside.
I feel like I kind of disagree. I feel like you kind of don't really see much into her process. I don't know.
That's fair. So she does share quite a bit of her process, and it could also be the 9 grid that I chose. But I like to point out too that you can see the drips on the wall in the bottom right image, right? Of where she's making the marks on the wall, and it's sort of dripping down from the canvas. So she is synesthetic, which means she sees colors when she experiences certain emotions. And so this is, in some ways, is abstract art, but in a lot of ways is very much literal art of what she's saying, which I think is cool.
I just want to point out, I like that she, in the middle and the bottom picture, it's two different views of the same painting, but the middle painting is not focused in the bottom painting. So I feel like I'm there with her and just observing. And she is letting me get a glimpse of what she's doing without letting my presence like be a disturbance of that. And so,
interesting.
You know, that's why I feel like I agree with the fact that she is letting us see her process while she's still able to perform and make her art.
Yeah, that's a fantastic insight. So, to put it another way, it's visual cues that convey a story without you having to actually tell your audience anything, right? So all of these things you learn just from looking at the images. So what makes a good visual? What makes up the anatomy of the visual, right? Oh, here we go, back to art school. It's literally this, right? How much are you using line, or what kind of line? What kind of color? Are you limiting your palette, or is it all over? Are you shooting primarily dark images or brighter or lighter images? How far are you taking imagery or making your graphics? How does the space feel? Does it feel like you're very close to an object or very far? Same thing with the principles of design, right? Balance, how balanced is the imagery? Is it super busy? Is it hyper contrasted? Is it not? All of these things are going to imbue your visual with meaning, right? Because you have associations. What associations do you have with the color green, for example? Fresh, bright, vibrant, natural, right? What associations do you have with the color brown? Perhaps muddy, earthy, but could be luxurious if you pair it with some black and white, right? So all of these things have different connotations, and it's up to you to decide how you want to bring these together to create the visuals for you. So here's another maker that is using composition, color, light to inform her, and I promise not, this whole presentation is not just Instagram, but to inform her grid, right? For the sake of time, I'm just gonna tell you what I'm seeing here, but feel free to write your own notes as we continue on. So what I'm seeing here is a repetition of shape, right? I'm seeing the ceramic form. I'm seeing a repetition of texture in the knitted forms. I'm seeing a use of daylight in soft shadows rather than a hard light that make me think of natural, of light, of airiness. I'm seeing some use of like natural elements, leaves, dried flowers, to also bring in that earthiness. So when I look at her, whether these are made by hand or made in a factory, to me, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, these are made by hand. This is like supernatural, like straight from the earth, not very much augmented or contrived, right? Is what I would get from just her use of how she's constructing her colors. Not colors, but her images. Okay, there's a second part to this, right? So you have the visual, but there's a lot of content and context that comes, they're like Siamese twins, right? You cannot separate them. And we want to distinguish really quickly, what is the subject versus the content? Okay, so we talk about this again in art school. What is the subject versus the content? So subject is literally what is present, what is the form. And then the content is the implicit meaning or the context that is provided. So here's an example. What is the subject of this painting? You can answer.
Grief.
Grief. I would say that the subject, what is the actual form of this, is a man holding a woman. That's it. What is the content now? What is the implied meaning? That's when I would say grief, right? So your brain is saying the subject matter of this is grief, but really it's context. And what is providing that context? It's the hands over the face, right? It's the colors that make it feel really subdued. It's the arms encircling her, right? There's all these little elements. Now, I'm going to tell you the name of this painting. I'm going to tell you two names. And I want you to tell me how that affects the how you feel about the painting, right? So the name of this painting is Free at Last. So is this grief? Or is it not?
No, it's relief. It seems like.
Yeah. I just lied. The name of this painting is
So
Lacrimae, which
that's
is
mean.
tears.
You're mean. No, you're not mean. What's the name of the
The name
painting?
of this painting is Tears. Okay, it's by Giuseppe Mentesi. The name is Lacrimae, which means tears. But if you thought that the title was Free at Last, does that not change the meaning of the painting?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
At least to me.
So that is the little plaque that is sitting next to the painting in the gallery, right? That tells you the name and provides an additional layer of context on top of this image, right? So not only is it the image, but you have to be thinking outside the box. What are the other infrastructures I can use to tell the story about what this is, right? Here's another one. What is the subject of this painting?
Tea and fruit.
Tea and fruit. Great. What is the content?
Teapot, a cup, fruit.
What kind of scene is it?
Would it be the time of day based on the way the light is hitting the objects?
Yeah, I would consider this like, maybe it's a breakfast scene, right? Or a siesta or something, right? Could be the content. I'm not sure what the content is, but what I get out of it is that it is something that is tranquil, providing sustenance during daylight hours, that feels very homey and nourishing to me. This is a painting called Late Afternoon by Patrick Saunders. When I first saw it, I thought it was daytime. I thought it was like early morning, right? Early morning tea. Okay, so context is everything, right? We want to use all the real estate we got. So here's an example from my current company. I'll let you take a look at it for a second. So if you just saw the image, you see two baby goats, side by side, best buds, right? But on top of that, we're now adding copy. We're saying vitamin C and niacinamide, two skincare ingredients. Now, what do we think about this image?
To me, it doesn't make any sense. All I see is these two cute little goats in outfits, and I don't even care about the vitamin C. like I'm trying to figure out how does that even relate, but I just like little goats.
My first thought is I would be Googling, are they one and the same?
Are they one and the same? Right. What else Could they be ingredients that work together?
Yeah,
right?
they go hand in hand.
Hand in hand. And then you read the caption, right? Can you mix vitamin C with niacinamide? We've asked all the derms and the experts. Tap the link in bio to get the tea, right? So the context also has a CTA that tells you the actual subject is, hey, we're gonna go chat with a dermatologist and find out if these two ingredients work together. But the visual that was used was two goats in sweaters, right? So all that to say, you can use not just the imagery, but what you think is incongruent imagery to tell a story in a very specific way, but then also use all the infrastructure you have available around you. So if you click the name tag at the bottom corner, maybe there's something else tagged there, right? Maybe you have something included in the captions. Maybe you have hashtags that give you more information, right? All of these are providing you with additional context of how to interpret this image. So great storytelling is aligning your visuals with your content. It's simple, it's a simple idea, but it doesn't make it easy, right? What you want to aim for is that they have congruent storylines so that your visuals, your content are congruent, not incongruent. Okay, so which brand is more aligned? I'm not going to tell you what is, who they are, what they do, but I am going to ask you a series of questions. So take a look for a second at both of these. Okay, what is the product offering on the left? Let's start with that.
It's offering good smelling products.
Good smelling products. What's the offering on the right?
Makeup or products for your face? I don't know.
Products for your face, okay. Are they a brand or a retailer? On the left, brand or retailer?
Brand.
Brand. On the right, brand or retailer?
Retailer.
Retailer. And what kind of niche do these products fall into? So we're both saying like beauty / skincare, which you'll see a lot of in this presentation because that's my background. So I apologize in advance if that's not of interest to you. But what niche in the beauty industry do these fall into? On the left, let's start with that one.
Skincare?
Skincare?
Natural products?
Natural products?
Yeah.
On the right?
Like cruelty free.
Cruelty free. Okay, cool. So both of these are clean, vegan, cruelty-free retailers that sell pretty much the same products but are competitors, okay? And in my mind, the one on the left, I don't know the scope of what they offer. The one on the right, I do. The one on the left, I have more associations with natural elements. The one on the right, I do not. So these are the things that you should be considering as you're putting together, and again, I promise this is not just Instagram, as you're putting together all your visuals. So whether that be your email channel, your Instagram, your TikTok, which is a whole different beast, whatever marketing materials you're putting together, flyers, pamphlets, making sure that your visuals and your content is aligning and is giving the right impression, the right first impression to your audience. Here's another one. Which brand is more aligned? So what is the product offering?
Jewelry.
Jewelry for both.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And what kind of niche do these products fall into? Are they like luxurious? Are they small? Are they an indie brand?
Kind of look
Are
like
they
personal
mass?
jewelry.
personalized jewelry.
Yeah.
They seem like they're appealing to slightly different age groups.
Different age groups. The left one, would you say is older or younger?
Older.
Okay, and the right one, younger?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is the left one a brand or retailer?
Brand.
And is the right one a brand or retailer?
I think it's also a brand.
Also a brand. Okay, is the one on the left or right more luxurious?
The left seems
Left.
more-
Okay, is the one on the left or right more affordable?
right.
Right, okay. This is a trick question because these are the same brand. This is the same brand that has evolved over time. So one of my mentors on my last company actually left and went to this brand. And so now they look like on the left, whereas previously they look like what they did on the right. It is the same company. They have this about 300K followers. And that following did not change with the brand update. But is their story more aligned with what they're trying to offer and what they're trying to do? I don't know. That's for them to say. All I'm saying is you can project a very different feel with just a few tweaks, right? Your color palette, your composition, how busy is it? All things to keep in mind. Okay, so here's what I think are tenets of successful storytelling. Be authentic. So here's an ad from Wendy's. Spiders, spicy nuggets. Netflix and chill, Netflix and chili. I thought this was hilarious, but also, is this gonna work for your brand or your product? Probably not, okay? It works for Wendy's because they're Wendy's, but that doesn't mean that it's authentic to you. So find what is authentic to you and let's go from there. Using visual cues, I think this makes things so much more successful. If you can use the same cues that other people recognize, then you're having a much easier time connecting. So this is one of, oh, please ignore the description here. I forgot to update it. That is not the right description. But the painting on the left is by Christina Nicodema, a friend of mine here in Brooklyn. She does, actually, let's go through this. What is the subject of this painting?
Looks like a party.
Okay.
A celebration. Even though I know there's some gruesome images there, I'm seeing a lot of cake and festivity.
Right. So remember, subject is form and content is the context, right?
Food and animals is the subject.
Food and animals is the subject. Great. And what is the context? What is the meaning that you're getting out of this?
The
Put it another
closer
way.
food is to nature, the healthier it is.
The healthier it is. What else?
Opulence.
Opulence. What else?
Feels like a reference to Dutch painting in like the 1700s.
Sure, yeah. Some Hieronymus Bosch for you. What else? Okay.
A decadence?
A decadence, sure. Decadence, opulence, I would say excess. There's also, as you mentioned earlier, I think it was Linda, a gruesome quality about it. There's a lot of rotten things, meat, bugs, raw meat, and then also animals, right? So this painter talks a lot about sustainability, about excess, about environmental issues, which would be the content, not the subject, right? Okay, the other thing that would make your storytelling successful is making sure that your impact is greater than your intent, or the more your focus than the intent. I think this has become really apparent in our hearts and minds recently, that intent is not enough, right? You can intend that, hey, I'm putting out this post and it's going to be so funny, but if it's not having the impact that you want it to have, then it's unsuccessful, right? And so we want to make sure that even though you can't always predict the impact, that you are taking responsibility for it. So the image I have on the right is, if you look at something one way, you see something. If you look at it another way and just flip it, you see something else, right? Another example was, I'm not going to play it now, just to make sure that we're good on time, but do feel free to look this up, and I'll also be sending you this presentation, but was the Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad. Do you guys remember this?
Yep.
Yeah. So this, just to recap, it was a commercial where a model hands a Pepsi, is going through a crowd that is protesting, and hands a Pepsi to a police officer at a time when it was a Super Bowl ad, and everybody was protesting around this time, and it was just completely tone deaf on Pepsi's part. So don't do that. Okay, clarity and focus. You want to make sure that beyond grabbing your attention, that your content, your visuals are clear, right? And that they're focused on exactly what you want to accomplish. So here's a verbal example. Practice social distancing. Great, but what does that mean, right? It's a little unclear. You don't have parameters of what social distancing means. That could be, I can social distance within my home, standing 6 feet away from my husband, or I can be social distancing outside. I don't necessarily have the parameters of that. What is more clear is, okay, stay at home, get groceries once a week, right? That is way less clear. Way more clear. It's specific. It gives you a concrete example of what social distancing can mean, right? Okay, provide value. Are you providing education, proof of concept, how this product works? Are you introducing something new? Every time you post something, whether it's email, IG, whatever, make sure that you're that you're providing some sort of value. So it's catering to your audience in that you're giving them something that they want, but they might not necessarily know what they want, right? So you want to make sure that they can stand to benefit from what they're seeing from you. So again, think about that funnel we talked about at the beginning, right? How are we generating loyalty? How are we creating delight? How are we telling them this is how the product works? I don't know, this. So you'll have access to this video, but I'm sorry you couldn't hear the sound. But what this was is, this is our best performing ad for the company I'm currently at now. So the company I work for is Hero Cosmetics. We do acne patches and acne care in general. And what this video shows is when you put the patch on, and after you've had the pimple, it sucks out the pus, or what we call the gunk, out of the pimple. And so she's doing the peel off reveal to show that the product worked. This is our best performing ad across the board. So across several different channels, it is still, like, this was filmed like a year and a half ago, and it's still working for us because it shows you what the value was of this product, right? Really quickly. Go where your people are. This is another thing to make sure you're ensuring your own success, right? If you know that your demographic is elderly married women, it is less likely they're going to be on TikTok all day, right? You want to make sure that you have what's called product market fit, that you're finding your market and catering to them, and putting your feelers out in that domain, rather than one that may not be the right channel for you.
Nabila, Amelia is wondering if you're referring
Mm-hmm.
to paid or organic channels. Does it make a difference?
It does not make a difference. So as far as ads go for my company and companies I've been at, we usually test things organically first before we turn them into paid. So we want to make sure that it works, right? In an organic way, that is gaining traction, it's getting engagement, it's getting reach, before we convert that into something that we put money behind.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sorry, I haven't paused yet. I hope that's
I have
okay.
a couple that are in waiting, and we'll get to those starting in a few minutes, probably.
Okay, I'll pause. I think this is the last slide of this section, so I'll pause in just a sec. Okay, so consistency and cadence. If you go to Mac's website and their social presence, product, face, product, face, product, face, product, face, product, face. This is all they do, right? They're showing the product in the jar, in the component that it comes in, and then they're showing it applied on the face, and that is it. That is their whole strategy in terms of visuals. Now they are showing differences in skin tone, differences in styles, differences in textures, to show the breadth of what they offer. But really they have sort of one system or one framework through which they're communicating, hey, we have a ton of makeup, it all looks cool. And they're creating this consistency and cadence, because both are supremely critical in making sure your audience not only recognizes you, but remembers you again and again, no matter what channel you're on. So it's not just important to be consistent and have a cadence, whether that is every day or once a week, however frequently it works for you. But it's not only important to have that within a channel, but across channels, right? So if you're talking about an ingredient spotlight, for example, on social, you want to make sure you're doing that in an email too, to make sure you're hitting all the points, you're hitting all your audiences. And if they're seeing it twice, that's even better, right? Because a consumer needs to see a product or visual ad between 7 and 12 times before it makes an impression where they're compelled to find out more. So that doesn't even mean buying, right? It's just to find out more, right? Making an impression 7 to 12 times. And then prioritize access. This is huge. It's getting bigger every day. You want to make sure you're adding captions, learning how to add alt text to your imagery, signal boost, disabled creators, and consider all types of accessibility. So if you're colorblind, can you still understand what the product is and what it can do for you, right? Okay, let's pause here and take some questions, and then I have 2 small sections left.
Kathleen from earlier was wondering about your goat image for Hero Cosmetics. Sure. Kathleen's wondering if it got better engagement than other approaches. Did you get more click from that content?
We did. So our demographic is Gen Z and millennials. And so for them, it resonated so well. And so we did get a ton of engagement and click-throughs to the blog to find out about those ingredients. So it worked for that demo and that platform, but that doesn't mean it's going to work across channels, right?
Absolutely. Sabat earlier had asked, is there any pressure from brands to always have a top 9 on Instagram, for that to be a holistic representation of the brand as each new post goes up? Are there any studies for how many posts a user goes through before showing any form of loyalty to the brand, like hitting follow or clicking to the site?
Okay, this is a fantastic question, because what you think it is actually not the case. So as far as IG goes, when a person is scrolling through their feed and getting pinged by the tags that they're following or brands that they're following, they're going to see individual posts and not your grid. And once they're a follower, they're rarely going back to your grid to see the full grid. They're just seeing individual posts. So that there is no necessity to actually have that 9 grid be like something that's magnificent composition altogether. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a sec, but so you want to make sure that your content is king, right? Don't worry about how it all looks together. You're going to create your own system and your own consistency as you keep making and keep posting, and it will sort of manifest itself. Now, that could be through the subject matter, it could be through the content, it could be through it doesn't have to be the composition and color, because I think those are the primary lenses that we view IG through, and it does not have to be that.
And real quick, what is signal boosting?
Signal boosting, meaning you're seeing that these creators are making something and you want to boost their signal. So you're basically sharing them. You want to make sure that you're amplifying their voice is another way to say it.
Great, thank you. And that's all the questions we got for the moment.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Those are great questions. Okay, so some pitfalls to avoid. And this is where we were touching on that grid, right? Chasing beauty versus relevance. This will only get you so far. There are incredible brands, influencers, products that have a massive following and their visuals do not look good, right? Or what we think is in the traditional sense of good. What they do have though is an alignment with their content. Here is sort of a meme channel or account called Kids Are the Worst, where it's just like a series of memes about how kids are the worst. But it has 500,000 followers, right? Because they're getting the content consistently at a cadence that they appreciate, and their visuals are aligned with their content. So no, I know I'm showing the grid, and that's just only to really provide you with a little additional context without walking you through their whole website and their whole email marketing channel, but to just show you in a snapshot visually. That's why I'm using the 9 grid, but it is not a holy grail by any means. Another pitfall, not checking in with your audience. You need to make sure that you have a feedback loop to know that you're on the right track. Regularly testing, regularly checking, and regularly interacting with your audience is so important to know where you sort of stand. And you can easily use the tools at your disposal to see what's working. So in IG, do a poll, right? In email, do a poll. You can also do A/B testing, right? To see what people are responding to one versus another. Very paramount. Okay, so we know what to avoid. Best practices. Asking the right questions. There are questions that brands ask themselves all the time that I think as individual makers, we need to be asking ourselves too. And to make this a regular practice, to sort of write all of this down and then refer to it often. This is what's going to become sort of your, your brand guideline. So questions like, have we tightly defined our target customer? Like, do you know who your demographic is? What makes our brand admirable? Is our brand available where its target customers shop? What is our unique value proposition? What sets us apart from a competitor that is also selling a very similar thing or service? So here's an example. One of those questions that was in the graphic was, does your brand possess values that it shares with your customers? So this was 6 days ago from Glow Recipe, another beauty brand, where they did a giveaway attached to whether or not you were registered to vote. So if you could show your voter registration, you were automatically entered into this giveaway where you receive the full suite of products, right? Which I think is brilliant, because you are getting people to be engaged, politically engaged, without telling them, hey, lean Democratic or Republican or whatever. But you're ensuring that you are doing some sort of social good, and sharing your values with that of your customer. Here's a big one. You can't manage what you can't measure. So set yourself up to be able to collect as much data as possible, because you want to be able to test new platforms, testing what works best. Do people want to see 10 images in a row in your emails, or do they want to see an explanation with each image? You can easily test those types of things. Are they responding more to a certain type of product or a different type of product? You can test all of that, but there's no way that the testing is valuable if you can't measure it. So you have to be able to measure it. So it is a little bit daunting and some work to set it all up and to be able to learn how to interpret your data. But I promise you, dive into it, because brands don't make a move without considering their data. If there is no data backing that that a customer wants this new product or responds well to this type of email, then we're not doing it. Like, we're just not, because it's a waste of time. You're shooting arrows in the dark if you can't quantify and qualify why you should be doing something. And another thing is, if you're thinking about that big picture strategy, right? You're thinking about that funnel and you're saying, okay, I want to create a loyalty program, or I want to make sure that people are seeing why this product is effective. Create a campaign around it, right? And these are basically, you're taking your big picture goal and you're setting it down into smaller, more accomplishable goals by creating a campaign calendar. So you're basically writing down, this was like a makeshift one that I made years ago for a company I worked for. That was just an Excel sheet, Google Excel sheet, and just wrote down all of our channels on the left side, our days of the week, and what we were posting on each channel on what day, right? And then there was notes on there. Okay, I want to make sure I'm including this. I want to make sure I'm partnering with this brand. I want to make sure I'm pointing out that there's a gift with purchase, right? And making sure that all the channels are aligned, so that I'm ensuring that consistency, that cadence, and making sure that, like, I have a story that I can constantly fall back on. So you want to make sure you're flexible, right? I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, we were going to push a product launch that we were so excited about. It had been held up. We had some major delays, and we were like, finally had everything in the warehouse, had all of our visuals ready. We're like, okay, we're going to launch it. And that was the week that George Floyd was killed. And the Black Lives Matter movement reached a crescendo. And so we, as you should, delayed everything, right? But we didn't know what to post in between, right? So after you've silenced your platform, after you come back, what do you talk about that is like, not, hey, go buy my product, right? And what we did was we had a whole campaign calendar of like, these are the things we want to talk about on a regular basis, that we were able to augment and plug in to fill in the gaps that we had. And that is a very large event or situation, but there's going to be micro situations, right? That you're like, oh, this meme is trending. Let me use this meme. It'll be perfect for my product. And so I'm going to push back like other things I had. But what you want is to have a framework so that you have something to fall back on. And that's it. So this is just the beginning. There's so much more to learn. And I'm constantly learning. I learn something new every day. So yeah. Any questions?
For the content calendar that you create, do you have any recommendations as to whether it's best to have more content, less content? Does it depend on the brand, the strategy? Obviously, you want to be at top of mind, so I would assume that at least one post a day will be the but again, can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think there's two things you have to balance here, right? One is you want to make sure you're top of mind. Oh, thank you, Allison. One is you want to make sure that you're top of mind, so that you are frequent in your touchstones with your audience. But at the same time, you don't want them to get fatigued, like, yo, stop pinging me. I don't want to see your posts. I don't want to see your emails, right? So you don't want to fatigue them. So it also depends on the type of content, right? The way I like to think about it is, I think daily or every other day is a good cadence to start off with, and then it's like you should test it. If I post twice a day or 3 times a day, does that make sense? Are people responding? Am I getting the same amount of reach or impressions or conversions, or is it increasing, right? Because if it's the same, it's not doing you any good and you're stressing yourself out. But if you're seeing an uptick, then you've tested it and you know that more frequent posting is working better for you. You may also want to adjust as, say you're launching something new. You might want to do 5 or 10 posts in one day just to show like the hype and the excitement behind that launch, right? But on a regular basis, you may be posting like once every other day. So those are some things to consider. And you can always use other channels. So maybe it's not about product, but maybe you're talking about like another maker that is similar to you or in parallel to what you're doing, that keeps you at the top of someone's feed or email inbox, but is giving them something of value that is not buy, right? What else? Oh, I can see the chat now. Great.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I provide a service, not a product, mostly. And unlike my competitors, I don't actually show images of the work. So I'm a professional organizer. So a lot of my competitors show rooms that are beautifully, all the boxes lined up and labeled. And I mean, I like looking at that, but to me, that's not what it's about. So I almost never show that. And instead try to, the images are the feeling after you've done the work. The feeling that so often are what my clients are, overwhelmed and completely stressed out, clutter and all this stuff. And
can you come help me out?
You don't look like you need it, kid.
I'm not showing you the other half of the room.
Oh, okay.
Just like tossed everything there.
I've got a screen too. I'm not showing it. No, I'm kidding. But I often wonder about that. Like, people, I'm not showing before and afters. I think that's an invasion of privacy and all that and trust. But I'm wondering, because as I'm asking that question, I'm thinking about the image you showed of those goats, right? I have no idea to me, I just saw these cute goats. I didn't even care what the content was. And I'm wondering, am I making a strategic mistake here?
So that is an excellent question. I think the only way you would know if you are or not is to test it. So what happens if you do start to post with permission some client images of a before and after, or posting content around like, here's some tips, right? Here's some tips to declutter, where it's not a specific client, but is within the subject matter that you tackle, right? So it's like freebies, right? It's like that gift with purchase, like, here's a free tip. So I would see if testing that out in whatever way you think. Can you still hear me? Yeah. Sorry, just checking my kind of went out. Okay. I would see in what way that makes sense to you. So does that mean that you get more references, more outreach in your inbox of people saying like, hey, I really need help? Maybe that's how you measure. I'm not quite sure, like within your industry, how you would go about measuring whether something is successful or not. But I would test it is my first gut reaction.
And we do have 5 minutes left. So if everybody can put questions in the chat box, if we don't get to them right now, I will make sure that Bila emails everyone afterwards, her responses. Drew is asking, how does one set up testing and measuring? If there are some quick tips that you can give for that, and then probably follow up later.
Testing and measuring is something that brands are figuring out every day. I can give you one example that comes top of mind. So my husband's company is also in the beauty space, and he works in data and analytics. So they did a test where all of their products, they just added 99 cents at the end, and they A/B tested it. So they had 2 live sites at the same time, where one site had like the regular price, $36 say, and the second one had $36.99. And they did not see a drop in people checking out when they raised their price by just the 99 cents, right? So it's a whole $1 more, but in the minds of the consumer, it didn't feel like it was a lot more because it was still under that $1 extra, right? And so what they found out from that was like people are still willing to make the purchase because the pricing the checkout rate didn't dip. So they were able to implement charge $1 extra across the board and generate more revenue that way. So I think the thing to consider is with testing and measuring is, one, make sure that you have your analytics set up on whether you're using Squarespace, on your IG, on email, if you're using MailChimp or Klaviyo. They all have basic platforms and dashboards that you can take a look at to see, what is my open rate? What is my click-through rate? So make sure that those are set up first of all. And the second thing is when you're testing, try to test one thing at a time. So what I see sometimes is, okay, I'm testing 2 emails. Everything in the email, once you open it, is the same, but the subject line is different. So what you see first pop up in your inbox is 2 different subject lines, right? That is one element that I'm testing, right? Now, if I do the subject line and I change one image inside the email of one, then I'm testing 2 completely different things, and it's very difficult to measure those against each other. They're not comparable anymore. So all that to say, just make sure you're testing one thing at a time and be cognizant about what those metrics are. So within the platform we use, which is Klaviyo, you can set it as like, okay, I want to measure the open rate, which would tie to the subject line. But if I want to measure the click-through rate, that has more to do with like the content that's inside the email. So making sure that those things are aligning is going to yield the best testing.
Thank you. And it's possible, I'm not sure, but it's possible that Drew was wondering again more about the specifics of like how to set up these systems, and possibly we'll have you follow up in an email after about that more.
Okay, sure.
I'm not sure though. And we have 1 minute left, so please keep your questions coming in that chat box. Real quick from Chris. Oh my God, so many good questions. Damn it, which we're not gonna get to all of them. Chris is wondering, she is a content photographer for small businesses. So she doesn't have her own brand identity for herself. So any tips about applying, about like showcasing her brand that is about I'm sorry, I'm just not reading the actual question. How do some of these channels apply to offering a service like this with images that are of multiple brands that have different visual cues? Thank you.
So I am regularly sourcing photographers, videographers, and your portfolio tells a lot about the type of photographer you are, or videographer, or whatever. So even though you're shooting different brands, your style will become apparent, or not your style, but your breadth, right? And what you are able to do. So even though you may be working with different art directors with each of those brands, I am able to tell what your composition is like, how you are copying in, and really what I'm looking for is, can you do the job I want you to do? So do you have product photography versus do you have portrait photography versus do you have landscape? So I, as someone who's searching, if I'm someone who wants landscape, I'm a hotel, I'm going to look for a landscape photographer. So if you want to be able to shoot a breadth of things, show that breadth. If you want to be able to shoot a niche category, show that niche.
Amazing, thank you. And Amelia's great question, tips for scaling down these principles for smaller brands and businesses, which possibly you can touch on in like a second, but probably a follow-up.
Probably not.
Yeah. And then also recommending any particular campaign calendar apps, programs, or templates from Katie, which is a great question that you might.
Can you save all these questions?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's save all of these questions because I think I saw someone asking to have all these questions added to the slides. I'm not sure I can do all of these questions justice, but I will try my best. All that to say
now about the recommendations for campaign calendar apps, and then we'll follow up with the rest in an email.
So I actually do not have a good answer for that, in that I use Excel still, because to me that was the easiest way to see all of my content at once. I'm still on the hunt for a good platform. I do like Asana to be able to see a calendar, but you have to really, really pay attention to the color coding to be able to see at a glance what's happening across all your channels. All that to say, one last closing remark, I guess, is I don't know everything, and I'm learning all the time, and you're learning all the time. But I think what is key here is to be super inquisitive about everything that you're interested in, and don't let anything feel too daunting. If you don't know anything about analytics, like there's so much literature on like how to get started with basic analytics. If you don't know anything about marketing, there's so much literature on there. The point is that the knowledge is out there, and often the knowledge is free. It's up to you to seek it out and to then apply it in the best way you know how. So I hope this was helpful. I know it's like not necessarily solutions or answers to how it applies to your work, but I hope it's provided some sort of framework with which to think about these things.
Thank you so much, Bela.
Thank you.
I'm going to give everybody like 60 seconds to get any last questions in the chat box, which once again, we will send out an email afterwards with some responses and including all of these answers in the slide presentation. That would be a wonderful idea. Thank you. Nabila, where can people find you, keep up with you, see your work, any projects that you're excited about that you just want to share?
I don't have a great Instagram presence, I think because I'm all Instagrammed out with work. But I emailed everyone before the workshop. So that is my personal email. I check that all the time. So you can reach me there. And in my signature of my email is also my website. So you can see some of my past work there. Feel free to anytime, all the time, reach out to my personal email. If I don't know the answers, I'll try to connect you with someone who does. Yeah, I just want to make it easier for everyone to have access to content marketing, all of it.
Thank you so much, Nabila. And
Thank
thank you
you.
everybody for joining us today for this workshop. I so appreciate everybody for being here and for participating. This was so wonderful to have all of your verbal feedback. And you'll receive an email in about a week with this recording. And that's about all the time we got right now. So
have a great weekend, everyone. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.